Welcome to lecture 16. We'll be studying English literature today. The topic will be the daffodils. We had studied first two stanzas of daffodils and we discussed the introduction of the poet in the previous literature lecture. Today we'll study the last two stanzas and we'll talk about the theme and the summary of the poem. Please keep giving me your attendance side by side. I I really hope that you have at least reviewed the previous lecture before coming to the class today, and you see, excuse me, I'm sorry, but I'm reading your messages and I'm admitting children at the same time alongside explaining you. That's why I might sound a little distracted, but once I'm done with it, it will be all right. So Abiha Reyaz, why do you admit the class with two IDs, or is that you the same ID and you've logged in again because of internet issue? What's going on? Anyway, let's focus on the lecture only now. And here we go. Okay, I'm sure that you people must have gone through the poem one more time before coming to the class, and you people must have read it after the last literature lecture, and you must have gone through the introduction of the poet, and you must have learned it by this time. This is what I hope. I'm not sure if you have done all that, but this is something that I hope. And uh, you know because hopes are mostly most of the time they are not fulfilled and they are not for real. That's why I'm explaining you this introduction one more time, so that if by chance you haven't gone through the poem or the introduction of the poet after the last lecture, I'm pretty sure that you must have forgotten everything about the poet and everything about the poem and the difficult words that I told you. Just for the sake of the children who don't bother to review the lecture, I'm explaining this to you one more time. The poem The Daffodils, and it is also called I Wandered Lonely um, as a Cloud. This is the title. This is the other title of the same poem. Has been written by famous English poet William Wordsworth. Who has written this poem? William Wordsworth has written this poem. He was born in the beautiful Lake District of England in the year 1770. From his early days, he was very fond of flowers, birds, lakes, rivers, rocks, and trees. He used to spend much time enjoying their beauty. He used to take long tours on foot. On foot means pedal, and visit the beautiful natural scenes which he loved so much. He started a new kind of poetry written in simple words about natural objects and simple country people, and he died in 1850. That was about William Wordsworth. And if you move towards the poem, the stanzas are: I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending lines along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. These two stanzas were explained in the last literature lecture that we had. In the first one, the poet explained how he came across the daffodils. In the first stanza, the poet is talking about uh, how he saw a host. A host means a great number of daffodils beside the lake, the Ullswater Lake, and beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. They were fluttering, they were dancing in the breeze. Breeze is a slight wind, a cold um, slight wind is breeze. Continuous as stars that shine. He has used a simile to show that, to compare the continuity of the stars with the continuity of the daffodils. In the second stanza, the poet is talking about the number, the quantity, and the joyfulness of the daffodils. In the second stanza, the poet is saying that daffodils were as continuous as the stars in the sky and the stars that twinkle in the Milky Way. They stretched in never ending line. Here, he has used a hyperbole. He's saying that the line, the stretch of the uh, daffodils, it was never ending. He could see he could see daffodils as long as he could, you know, his ability of sight, his sight could, you know, allow him. There was so much in number, there were so many that as long as he could see, he could only see the daffodils. They were stretched in never ending lines, in a line that seemed to never end. And along the margin of the bay, um, bay is a part of a lake or a sea. The margin is the side. 10,000 saw I at a glance. Again, he has used a hyperbole, and here he is saying that he, in just one glance, he could see 10,000 daffodils. This is a hyperbole. Obviously, he couldn't see, and no one can see 10,000 flowers at one glance, but he has used a hyperbole here, and poets are allowed to use hyperbole. That is the beauty of poetry. Okay? And in the last stanza, he's saying that the daffodils were tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Obviously, daffodils don't have heads, they have tops. The tops of daffodils should be the flowers, and he has compared the flowers with the heads, which is a comparison of daffodils with human beings, because human beings have heads at the tops, and plants, they have flowers at their tops. Okay, so he has compared daffodils with the living beings, and he has compared their move, their tossing in the breeze with the dance the human beings perform. Okay, so we'll first read the second last two stanzas, and then I'll explain them to you. And just tell me if everything that I explained to you in the first two stanzas, that review, if everything is clear, if you've reminded everything, if you've recalled the last literature lecture that we had. If everything is clear, please let me know. And if you haven't given me your attendance, please give me your attendance too. And there is one more announcement that I'm supposed to make. I'll make that too, but first let me have you know a few sips of water, because my throat is drying up. I don't know, I am having a sore throat or a dry throat. I don't know what that is, but it is irritating. Is everything clear? Please let me know. Okay, thank you, Zarna, Babiha, Alina, for your responses and letting me know that everything is clear. Let's move towards the last two stanzas. The waves beside them danced, but they, who? The daffodils, outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or impensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. We have studied the first stanza, I've explained it. We have studied the second stanza, I have explained it. Just note down the meanings of the difficult words from the third stanza so that we can move on towards the explanation of the stanzas. Okay, I'll give you a few seconds to copy down or to look at the meanings of the difficult words. If there is anything that you find difficult, please let me know. Have you noted the meanings? Outdid. That is past tense of outdo. When you outdo someone or you outdo something, that means you are doing better than somebody else or better than the person mentioned. Sparkling means shining. Glee is happiness. Jocund is happy or lively. Gaze is to look with wonder. What wealth here means what happiness, what uh, precious memory, what precious feeling. The show means the scene. The show means the scene that the poet was looking at of the daffodils are dancing and fluttering. Let's read the stanza this time and see if you can understand it just by knowing the meanings of the difficult words. The waves beside them danced, but they, who, the daffodils, outdid the sparkling waves in glee. Glee is happiness. Outdo is to do better than, and glee is happiness. A poet could not but be gay. Gay is happy. In just such a jocund company is a happy company, a joyful company, a very pleasant company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought. Gaze is to look at something. Looked with wonder, हैरानगी से देखना. But little thought. Thought is to think. Second past form of think is thought. What wealth the show to me had brought. Brought is to bring. It is past of bring. And show is the scene and wealth is the happiness. Okay. Here in this stanza, the poet is saying that because the daffodils were beside the lake, they were, stretched along the margin of the bay, along the margin of the lake. So there were obviously waves beside them. In this stanza, the poet is saying that the waves were also dancing. But the daffodils, they outdid the shining waves in happiness. They did better than the waves. They danced better than the waves. And the poet said that a poet could not but be gay, that a poet could feel nothing but happiness in such a jocund company, the company of daffodils, the happy company of daffodils, the happy natural scene that was accompanying him over there beside the lake, beside the Water lake. Okay, the poet says that a poet could feel nothing but happiness in such a natural scene, in such a place which is so full of natural beauty. I gazed and gazed but little thought. He said that I was so much into the scene, I was so much into the beauty of daffodils that I kept gazing at them, I kept looking at them and kept wondering how beautiful they are and kept wondering how pleasant the scene was. But he did not think that the beauty of daffodils was a precious memory, was giving him something to take home with him. And the scene was a lifelong wealth for him. He had not thought what wealth, what happiness, what pleasure the show, the scene had brought to him. Okay? Is this stanza clear? Is this stanza clear? Should we move on to the second one? कौन सी waves? Toki, we were talking about the waves of the lake. जो लहरें obviously lake में बन रही हैं, we are talking about them. Because the daffodils, they were present along the bank of a lake, so the waves are in the lake. Everything is clear? Okay, let's move towards the, you see, last stanza. If you haven't given me your attendance, please give me your attendance. First, we'll look at the difficult words and their meanings. Oft is often, many a times. Second word is vacant, which means free hours or a leisure time or free time. Pensive is seriously thoughtful. When you are, full of thoughts, when you're stressed, when you're thinking about things that you can't handle, or you're thinking about things that are burdensome, then you are in pensive mood. Then you are pensive. Flash means sudden bright light. Inward eye is deep look and power to see the past experience in mind. That is your inward eye. When you recall the scenes and they are playing in your mind as a flashback or as a movie, and you can see each and everything clearly as as a movie, then it is your inward eye that recalls, that replays the scenes that you've already seen or the experiences that you've already gone through. This is the inward eye. And the bliss of solitude is the great joy of being lonely. Bliss is happiness, and solitude is the state of being alone, loneliness. The state of being alone is actually the solitude. Okay? Bliss is complete happiness, and the other meaning of bliss is also paradise or heaven. So you should know now what bliss means. And every different word that we study in form of poems, because poems we come across more difficult vocabulary compared to the prose. So whenever you get any difficult word and any interesting word, you should definitely you know um practice its use and try to make it a part of your everyday vocabulary. Because this is the only way to, improve your English and improve your vocabulary. Are the meaning, clear? Are the meaning clear? Should we move on to the reading and explanation of this last stanza? If there's anything difficult, or if there's anything that is disturbing you, please let me know. Okay, so let's move on to the last stanza. The last stanza is for oft, for many a times, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. The poet here tells us what wealth he is actually talking about. The poet in the last stanzas says that the natural scene that he once saw, that he once came across, has given him a wealth for a lifetime. And what wealth is that? He says that whenever means often, when he is lying in his couch, when he is lying there, be it of the vacant mood, be it the pensive mood, when he is thoughtful, when he is stressed, if he is lying in his couch and he has nothing to do, or if he's free, he's stress free, he's not thinking about anything. Even then, if he is lying in his couch, he is lying in his sofa in his living room, the pleasure, the daffodils that give him is something out of the world. It is something that the poet actually treasures, something that poet cherishes. He says that the scene that he came across near the lake, it starts flashing upon his inward eye. What that means? That means that at that time, the poet starts looking at them in his inward eye. I've already told you what an inward eye is. That is when you see something as a movie, something that you have already had experienced in your past, and that starts, playing in your mind as a movie. um, or when you have, walk down the memory lane and you start seeing the things that you've already seen in your past, and you are experiencing them one more time, but as a memory. That is your inward eye, your ability to look at the things that you've already seen in the past as a memory. They start, the memory of daffodils, they start flashing upon his inward eye. And that is actually the great happiness of his, state of being alone. This is the, his companion in his solitude, in his loneliness, the memory of daffodils. And then my heart with pleasure fills. And after looking at them in my memory, after recalling the scene of daffodils, my heart fills with pleasure. He becomes happy. He becomes uh, very joyful. He becomes gay. Gay means very happy, extremely happy. And his heart also dances with the daffodils. It starts moving the way the daffodils moved in happiness. And the natural scene brings happiness to him. And the poet has obviously talked about loneliness and the state of being lonely, the solitude. Why? Because his brother had died. I told you this in the previous lecture, that when he wrote this poem, a little while before that, his brother had died and he was missing him. That's why he is talking about loneliness, because he was missing his brother. Okay, if we talk about the title and theme of the poem, Then I would say the title Daffodils is a simple word that reminds of us of what? The arrival of spring, when the fields of England are full of daffodils. And daffodils, what are they? They are flowers which the color of flower ranges from pale yellow to the golden ones. And the poet here is particularly talking about the golden daffodils. And the golden daffodils, they have an amazing shape and beautiful fragrance. And a bunch of daffodils, they symbolize the joy and happiness of life. And the theme of the poem is obviously that, the natural beauty, the natural things, the small natural things that we don't even consider important because of our busy lives, our hectic lives. They are actually, they connect very deeply with human emotions, and they inspire us. And humans, they are definitely inspired by nature, and little things may not that we may not notice due to our busy lives, they give us extreme pleasure which is out of this world, something that we can't explain, something that we can't buy with money. And pensive, Ahmad Iqbal, I beta already told you, pensive is extremely thoughtful, extremely stressed, state of mind. Thoughtful state of mind is pensive mood. Okay, okay. If we talk about this poem altogether, on a whole, then I would say that William Wordsworth, he wrote Daffodils on a stormy day in spring. Stormy doesn't mean that it was actually stormy, literally stormy. It means that it was windy on that day. And he was walking along with his sister Dorothy near Ullswater Lake. Near Ullswater Lake. That is U, a capital U, double L S W A T E R, Ullswater Lake. And where is it? It's in England, obviously, because the poet, he belongs to England. He imagined that daffodils were dancing and invoking him to join and enjoy the breezing nature of the field. Okay, and uh, you know the the sister, William's Wordsworth's sister, she says she is the younger sister of William Wordsworth. She says uh, she found the poem so interesting that she took daffodils as the subject of her journal. And the poem is written as an appreciation of daffodils and contains 6 lines in 4 stanzas. Every stanza contains 6 lines. And how many stanzas are there? There are 4 stanzas in this poem. The stanza in a poem means what a paragraph means in a prose. If we talk about the first stanza, let's move towards the first stanza. In the first stanza, the poet finds himself as a lonely cloud. The poet finds himself as what? As a lonely cloud, which is floating over the valley. The poet describes himself lonely because his brother John was dead, leaving him alone and sad. Then he encounters the yellow daffodils beside the lake. The flowers were swaying here and there due to the heavy breeze, as if they were dancing happily. If we talk about the second stanza, uh, the second stanza is about how amazing the daffodils looked in the spring season, and the poet found those flowers like stars which shined and twinkled in the night sky, in the Milky Way, obviously. They were nodding their heads while dancing. And then William Wordsworth expressed that these flowers, these beautiful flowers, stood in a never ending line. He felt an illusion that he was watching all 10,000 of flowers all together in one glance, in a glance, in his singular glance. If we talk about the third stanza is the continuation of how, along with the flowers, the water in the lake too moved, as if they were competing with each other in the dance. But the glee, flowers won, and the sparkling lake it lost. Finding their playfulness, the poet he couldn't stop himself from joining their company, and the poet kept staring at both of them. Both of them what? The vase and the daffodils. He was wondering how his sad mood it changed into a happy one. The daffodils and lakes dance brought him a wealth that he could not deny. The mesmerizing flowers gained a place in his heart he couldn't understand but just feel it. And in the fourth stanza, the poet says that, he's narrating, he's giving us a narration of what pleasure uh, he had been given, he had gained after watching the daffodils dancing that day. Whenever he feels sad or alone, the picture, the move, the scene of daffodils, it comes to him in his mind, and it is like he has regained life's treasure, and how valuable the solitude is, the scene in his solitude is. And in the end he says that his heart was filled, his heart was content in joining the daffodils dance, that he considers himself lucky because he was able to join the dance of the daffodils. Is this poem clear? If there is any question, please let me know. This is the end of today's lecture. If there is anything that needs further explanation, please tell me. Please let me know. The figurative language in the poem is, the use of simile in the first stanza. That was in the second stanza. Sorry, that was continuous as the stars that shine. In the first stanza, it was Wendell only as cloud. He's compared himself as a cloud. The poet has compared himself as a cloud, and you know there is use of hyperbole. There is use of other figurative languages in this poem. You have to figure it out yourselves because the time doesn't allow us to discuss that. Although we have discussed every figurative language that we came across in the poem. I explained every figurative language used there. यहाँ पे Elsa, the third line in the last stanza, they flash upon that inward eye. It means whenever the poet is lying in his couch, in his vacant mood or in his pensive mood. That means whenever he is lying and he's thinking, they flash, the daffodils, the scene, it flashes upon his inward eye. What is inward eye? Inward eye is, I'm sorry, this window, I have to move it and I can't move it. What's happening to me? Okay. Flashing is a sudden bright light. It flashes on the deep look, the power to see the past experience in mind, in that inward eye. Whenever the poet is lying on his couch, the daffodils, they flash. They suddenly appear on the inward eye, which means he is capable of watching the whole scene one more time as a movie in his mind. जब हमारे दिमाग में कोई चीज प्ले होती है ना, that is our inward eye. जब हम लोग किसी पास्ट एक्सपीरियंस को when we can recall it as a movie, जिसको मूवीज में दिखाते हैं फ्लैशबैक के तौर पे, इंसान को पूरा सीन दोबारा से याद आने लग जाता है. इन मूवीज दिस इज इट हैपेंस लाइक दैट. इन रियल लाइफ इट आल्सो हैपेंस, बट ऑब्वियसली दूसरों को नजर नहीं आता, लेकिन हमें एज अ मूवी वी कैन सी ईच एंड एवरीथिंग वेरी क्लियरली as if a movie is playing in our mind. उसी तरह से daffodils का scene, it starts playing on in the inward eye of the poet. Is that clear, Elsa? And the last line of third stanza. This is the fourth one. What wealth the show to me had brought means what wealth, kaun sa happiness, kaun sa treasure. The show means the scene of daffodils to me, मेरी तरफ had brought, मेरी तरफ लेके आया है कि this all scene I can't explain. मैंने सोचा नहीं था, but I gazed and gazed, मैं देखता रहा at the daffodils, but little thought, लेकिन इसका बहुत मैंने इस बारे में सोचा नहीं. I little thought about it कि किस बारे में, what wealth, कौन सी दौलत, कौन सी हैप्पीनेस, कौन सा ट्रेजर the show, the scene of daffodils had brought to me. वो वाला scene he has explained in fourth stanza, that is that whenever he lies in sad mood, in loneliness, solitude means loneliness, और bliss is happiness. The bliss वो है वो wealth जो daffodils ने दी, and what wealth was that, पूरा scene जो है वो happiness लेके आता है when he thinks, when he recalls the daffodils, when he has the walk down the memory lane, when he is lying in his couch. Is everything clear? We have less than 2 minutes left, and I have to tell you that tomorrow you have your quiz. Quiz ab honge weekly, and you'll weekly have a quiz in form of MCQs. Or you're welcome, Elsa, whenever you don't have anything when you have anything that you don't understand, and whenever there's anything that disturbs you, that is something that confuses you, you're welcome to ask me. This is what I'm here for, है ना, इसीलिए ताकि मैं आपको explain करूं. So don't be thankful, just tell me whenever you have any problem. Give me your attendance if you haven't given me it. और अब मैं आपको बताने वाली हूँ एक बहुत important announcement. कल जो होगा that will be of the last sermon of Holy Prophet. 24 hours के लिए, or for some hours, I don't know, that is not definite yet. आप कब खुलेगा वो quiz, you'll have to attempt it MCQs की form में on Google Classroom. ठीक है, every week हुआ करेगा. This week it will be, tomorrow it will be of the last sermon of Holy Prophet. तो ये गूगल क्लासरूम में ही होगा, वहीं पे आपको अटेम्प्ट करना है, और आफ्टर अटेम्प्टिंग दैट आपको उसी वक्त मिल जाएगा उसका आंसर, आपको मतलब उसका रिजल्ट भी उसी टाइम पे मिल जाएगा कि आपने कितना स्कोर किया है. एवरी ट्यूसडे, यस, एवरी ट्यूसडे यू विल हैव इट. Is this time it will be of the last sermon of Holy Prophet. I will upload the assignment obviously, और उसके बाद में जो भी डिटेल मिलेगी, if there is anything that is to be told to you, I will upload it in form of a notice on Google Classroom. So keep yourself, uh, notified with every update. Stay connected, stay tuned to Google Classroom at least for today. Okay, if there is anything that you want to ask me, please ask me. Okay, now this is time to sign off. Allah Hafiz from my side, and take good care of yourself. Nahi, after class, okay? It will be held after class, okay? So this is end of today's lecture. Allah Hafiz. Take good care of yourselves. Goodbye.